The Louisiana sun hung low over the rolling fields of Madisonville, casting golden hues across Senator John Neely Kennedy's quiet retreat. Tucked among dense woods and meandering bayous, the modest ranch was his sanctuary from the relentless pace of Washington, D.C., where he served as a U.S. Senator from Louisiana, renowned for his razor-sharp wit and unwavering conservative principles. At 73, Kennedy moved with deliberate ease, his boots crunching on the gravel path as he walked the property line, his loyal German shepherd Atlas trotting alertly at his side. The air carried the heavy scent of pine and damp earth, a hallmark of Louisiana's humid summers, while cicadas hummed a soothing rhythm. Kennedy adjusted his worn baseball cap, his keen eyes scanning the horizon, not out of paranoia, but with the practiced vigilance of a man who'd spent decades navigating complex challenges in public service. This retreat wasn't just a place to unwind. It was a strategic haven where he could reflect on the values that defined his career, protecting communities, upholding the rule of law, and standing firm against threats to freedom. Unbeknownst to him, a sinister force was creeping toward this peaceful corner of Louisiana, the most ruthless Mexican cartel led by the cunning Felix Reyes, under the shadowy command of El Fantasma, had set its sights on the surrounding valley. They saw it as prime territory for their drug trafficking empire, having already strong-armed or bought out several local farms to establish distribution routes. Kennedy's ranch, strategically positioned at a key junction with clear sightlines over vital access roads, was their next target. They believed they were dealing with a genial, aging senator who'd be easily swayed by cash or scared off by threats. They couldn't have been more wrong. As dawn broke, Kennedy noticed something off fresh tire tracks in the muddy path near his gate, too deep for local vehicles, suggesting heavy SUVs had passed through. Atlas growled softly, hackles raised, and Kennedy knelt to inspect the marks, his mind already analyzing with the precision honed from years of dissecting policy and security briefings in the Senate. "Something's not sitting right, boy," he muttered, brushing dirt from his jeans. Moments later, Sarah Bennett, his closest neighbor, roared up in her weathered pickup, her face tight with worry. "Senator, thank God you're here. Heard about the Hendersons. They packed up and left overnight, no word. And now there's strangers on their land. Black SUVs, folks who don't belong." Kennedy's calm demeanor masked the gears turning in his head, drawing on his experience in oversight committees where he'd scrutinized threats to national security. "Cartel?" he asked, voice steady. Sarah nodded, gripping the steering wheel. "Word in town is they're pushing up from the border, buying farms or worse. Those who don't sell, accidents happen." Kennedy's jaw tightened as he mapped the threat-isolated properties perfect for hiding drugs with rural roads for discreet transport. His ranch's location made it a linchpin in their scheme. "They come to you yet?" he asked. "Not yet, but the Millers caved last week after some too-good-to-pass-up offer. Watch yourself, Senator. They're targeting this valley like a chessboard." As Sarah drove off, Kennedy whistled for Atlas and headed to his barn, where beneath ordinary farm tools lay a hidden setup he'd installed years ago, not out of fear but foresight. Secure communication devices, detailed valley maps, and surveillance equipment reflected the prudent mindset of a man who'd faced down complex challenges in Louisiana's state treasury and the U.S. Senate. Inside the barn, Kennedy lifted a false floorboard, revealing a cache of high-tech gear he'd hoped never to use again. Encrypted radios, motion sensors, and a secure laptop. This wasn't paranoia. It was preparation, a trait that had served him well in outmaneuvering political opponents and navigating legislative battles. He pulled out maps marking his ranch's strategic value control of the main road, oversight of 3 approach routes, and natural defensive features like the surrounding bayous. His secure phone buzzed with a text from an old law enforcement contact, Cartel's moving fast 5 properties taken this month. Stay sharp. Kennedy pocketed the device, his eyes catching 3 black SUVs slowing past his gate, reconnaissance, no doubt. He spent the afternoon making discreet calls to trusted allies, former colleagues, who shared his commitment to justice. First was Knox, a security expert with an eagle eye for surveillance. "Kennedy, been a while. How deep's the trouble?" Knox's voice crackled. "Deep enough to call you in. Cartel's eyeing my valley, my land included. Need your expertise." A low whistle. "I'm in," rounding up the others. The team formed in Kennedy's mind: Raven, a legal strategist who could tie opponents in knots with regulations; Cyrus, a genius at infrastructure defense; Zane, a communications savant; and Nash, a master of logistics and coordination. They'd collaborated before on tough issues, always under Kennedy's sharp leadership, navigating crises with intellect and principle. By evening, as the sun dipped below the bayou's painting, the sky in shades of amber, Kennedy walked his property again, this time seeing it through a strategist's lens. Every tree line, every rise, every waterway could be turned to their advantage. The cartel thought they were targeting a senator's quiet retreat. They were walking into a trap woven by one of America's shrewdest minds. Atlas barked suddenly, alerting to approaching vehicles. The same SUVs now stopped at the gate. Kennedy adjusted his cap, adopting the role of a friendly landowner, and approached his mind, cataloging details: 5 men in expensive suits, 2 lingering by the vehicles, with hands near concealed weapons. Felix Reyes stepped forward, his polished boots crunching gravel, his smile practiced, but eyes cold as steel. "Senator Kennedy, beautiful place you've got here. We're an investment group looking to expand in this valley. Your land's got features. We're interested in $3 million cash, well above market." Kennedy leaned against the fence, relaxed, but noting their military-like stances, the subtle encirclement. "Not selling, gentlemen. This land's worth more to me than money can buy." Reyes's smile tightened. "Progress is coming, Senator. You can profit from it, or things can get complicated. Accidents happen out here." Kennedy's voice carried a quiet edge honed from years of Senate debates. "Threats don't sit well in Louisiana, Mr. Reyes. We handle our business with the law." Reyes flinched at the use of his name, a calculated slip by Kennedy to show he wasn't as uninformed as he seemed before recovering. 24 hours to think it over. After that, the offer's less friendly. He handed Kennedy a card, fake company name and all, and turned to leave, pausing to eye Atlas. "Fine dog. Be a shame if something happened to him." Kennedy's hand steadied Atlas's low growl, but his tone was iron. "That'd be a mistake you'd regret." As the SUVs retreated, Kennedy activated his hidden security system cameras, concealed in trees, motion sensors, along the perimeter, all feeding to a basement command center he'd built for worst-case scenarios. He texted his team. "They're coming! Get here fast!" Sarah called, voice tight. "I saw those SUVs, Senator." "What's the plan?" "Stay safe, Sarah. Head to family if you need to." "I've got this." Hanging up, he descended to his cellar, checking equipment with the methodical care of a man who'd planned for every contingency in his career. The gear was ready: encrypted comms, surveillance feeds, and legal documents to back any action. Vehicles approached his team, arriving via back roads to avoid detection. Knox rolled in first, his black pickup loaded with surveillance gear. Cyrus followed in a jeep carrying defensive tools disguised as farm equipment. Zane and Nash arrived minutes later, their vehicles dusty from rural routes. In the barn, away from prying eyes, the team reunited, their old synergy reigniting. Cartel's got ex-military muscle, well-funded, organized, Kennedy briefed spreading valley maps across a workbench. They think they're dealing with a small-town senator. We'll use that. His team nodded, recognizing the sharp mind that had outwitted opponents in committee rooms, now turning to protect his home. Knox surveyed the terrain through the barn door. Good sightlines, natural choke points. We can control their approaches. Cyrus examined the barn's structure. Bayous and roads give us leverage, disrupt their movement with minimal effort. Zane connected his laptop, pulling up intercepted cartel chatter. Sloppy encryption. They're arrogant, think we're soft. Nash organized supplies. We've got coordination down, just need to stay legal. Kennedy's plan took shape. Turn the ranch into a fortress of strategy, not force. Cyrus rigged non-lethal deterrents along access roads, pressure sensors, disorienting lights. Knox set up observation posts in elevated positions. Zane hacked deeper into cartel communications, mapping their chain of command. Nash prepared contingencies coordinating with local contacts. "This isn't just about my land," Kennedy said, his voice carrying the weight of his Senate oath. "It's about keeping this valley free from predators." His conservative principles, self-reliance, community rule of law, guided every move. Zane's voice crackled over their secure line. "They're not waiting assault planned for tonight." Kennedy's eyes gleamed with resolve. "Good. Let them come overconfident. They'll learn why you don't underestimate Louisiana smarts." As night fell, the team finalized preparations. Kennedy's leadership shone his wit, keeping spirits high. "These folks think they're buying my land. They're buying a lesson." Laughter eased the tension. Atlas patrolled alert as ever, while Kennedy reviewed data anticipating cartel moves with the same foresight he'd used in policy battles. Neighbors subtly alerted through Sarah's network became an invisible web of observers loyal to the senator who'd earned their trust through years of service. The cartel's scouts probed again, unaware their chatter was intercepted. The senator's alone easy mark. Felix's voice sneered over Zane's feed. Kennedy smiled grimly, his strategy already 3 steps ahead. He'd faced tougher opponents in legislative halls and come out on top. This was personal now, but his approach remained disciplined evidence. First law enforcement, on-call, community ready. The Louisiana night deepened, stars piercing the humid air as Kennedy's master plan unfolded. The cartel, blinded by greed, marched toward a reckoning not with guns, but with the superior intellect of a senator who'd spent a lifetime outsmarting challenges. His retreat, once a place of peace, was now a beacon of resistance, ready to prove that sharp minds and strong principles triumph over brute force. The team stood poised, Kennedy at the helm, his calm authority a promise of victory. The valley held its breath, but under his watchful eye, it was safe. The cartel had no idea the force they'd awakened, not violence, but the unyielding power of strategic brilliance and unwavering resolve. The dawn would reveal the outcome, but Kennedy's confidence was unshakable. This was his land, his community, his fight, and he was ready. As night enveloped the Louisiana Bayou Senator John Neely Kennedy's retreat, transformed into a hub of calculated activity, his team moving with the seamless coordination born from years of shared challenges in legal and security arenas. Kennedy, ever the master strategist, directed operations from his basement command center, where screens flickered with live feeds from hidden cameras and motion sensors he'd activated earlier. "Gentlemen, we're not building walls. We're weaving a net," he said, his voice steady and laced with that signature wit that had disarmed opponents in Senate hearings. Knox, perched in a makeshift observation post atop a nearby ridge, scanned the valley through night vision binoculars, his expertise spotting subtle movements in the underbrush. Two scout teams approaching from the East Light Arms trying to stay off the roads, he reported over encrypted comms. Cyrus, the infrastructure whiz, was already at work, rigging non-lethal deterrents, pressure-activated floodlights along the perimeter designed to blind intruders without escalating to violence, and subtle barriers using farm equipment to block alternate paths. Zane tapped away at his laptop, infiltrating cartel frequencies with disinformation, planting false chatter about heavy police presence in the area to sow doubt. Nash coordinated logistics, ensuring supply lines for evidence-gathering tools like body cams and recorders ready to document every misstep for legal leverage. Kennedy's plan was elegant in its simplicity: use the law as their primary weapon, turning the cartel's aggression against them through swift documented responses that would hold up in any court or committee review. The team worked through the humid night, fortifying without a trace of overt militarism. Cyrus repurposed irrigation systems to create muddy quagmires in key approach zones. Natural obstacles that looked like everyday farm maintenance gone awry. Bayous give us an edge flood one section, and their vehicles bogged down. He explained wiring controls to Kennedy's central panel. Knox set up additional vantage points, camouflaging them with local foliage, his sharp eye ensuring overlapping fields of observation. "We've got eyes on every choke point. They move, we see it first." Zane's communications wizardry extended to alerting a network of trusted locals, farmers and ranchers Kennedy had built relationships with over years of community service via secure apps disguised as weather alerts. Sarah Bennett received one such message: "Unusual activity spotted. Document if safe." She and others became unofficial sentinels, their phones capturing license plates and faces without confrontation. Nash prepared contingency packs, including first aid kits and legal affidavits pre-drafted by Raven, who joined remotely via video call, outlining zoning laws and trespass statutes that could tie the cartel in bureaucratic knots. One wrongful entry, and we slap them with injunctions faster than they can say, "Appeal." Raven advised his legal acumen, a perfect complement to Kennedy's strategic oversight. The senator paced thoughtfully, his conservative principles guiding the operation: defend property rights, empower communities, and let the system work. "We're not vigilantes. We're citizens, using every tool the Constitution provides," he reminded the team, his wit cutting through the tension. "These cartel boys think they're playing checkers, and we'll show them chess Louisiana rules." As midnight approached, Zane's intercepts crackled with cartel plans. Felix Reyes, mobilizing a first wave of 20 men, armed and confident, aiming to intimidate with a show of force under cover of darkness. "They're splitting into 3 groups. Main push up the central road, flanks circling wide," Zane warned. Kennedy nodded, his mind mapping countermeasures like he'd dissect a flawed bill in committee. "Let them commit. We turned their momentum against them." The assault began with distant engine rumbles echoing through the woods. Knox's voice came low. "Lead vehicles, reaching the outer line officer types in back." Kennedy held fire on direct action instead, activating the first layer. Cyrus triggered floodlights, illuminating the intruders in blinding beams that forced them to scatter their night vision gear, overwhelmed. "What the hell?" Felix's voice barked over intercepted radio, panic edging in as his men stumbled into the prepped mud pits, vehicles spinning tires uselessly. Zane amplified the chaos by broadcasting fake police chatter on open frequencies. "Units en route to reported trespass in Madisonville Valley, armed suspects confirmed." The cartel's advance faltered, men diving for cover as Sarah and neighbors' cameras rolled from concealed spots, capturing faces and plates for evidence packets Nash was compiling in real time. Kennedy watched the feeds, directing with precision. "Knox, spotlight the command vehicle, non-lethal only." Knox complied, using a high-powered beam to pin the SUV, forcing Felix to shout orders blindly. Cyrus followed up with controlled water releases from irrigation lines, turning flanks into swamps that bogged down the circling teams. Their separated eastern group cut off. Zane reported his hacks, revealing frantic cartel comms. Nash, monitoring from a safe vantage, noted, "No injuries yet. We're keeping it clean for the reports." The senator's strategy emphasized de-escalation through superiority use, the land's natural features, legal documentation, and community eyes to neutralize without bloodshed. Locals like Sarah played key roles, one rancher accidentally blocking a side road with a tractor under the guise of late-night repairs, funneling intruders into monitored zones. Felix rallied his men. "Push forward. It's just an old senator's tricks." But Kennedy's wit surfaced in a broadcast Zane patched into their channel. "Gentlemen, you're trespassing on private property. Authorities have been notified. Best turn back before this gets expensive." The voice, calm and authoritative, echoed Kennedy's Senate floor presence, unnerving the cartel forces who expected easy intimidation. The confrontation intensified as the cartel's main group reached the inner perimeter, weapons drawn, moving in tactical formation. Cyrus activated secondary deterrents, noisemakers mimicking police sirens, disorienting the advance. Knox provided overwatch, his reports guiding adjustments. "They're probing the barn, 3 men armed." Kennedy coordinated a multi-layered response. Zane flooded their radios with static, laced with looped warnings, while Raven, on call, initiated emergency filings for restraining orders via digital channels, alerting local sheriffs with prepped evidence. Nash dispatched anonymous tips to state police, backed by live-streamed footage from hidden cams. The cartel's arrogance crumbled as one team triggered a sensor-activating sprinklers laced with harmless marking dye evidence for later arrests. "They're marked now, can't deny involvement," Nash noted. Felix's frustration boiled over. "Find that senator, end this." But Kennedy, monitoring from the center, anticipated the push, directing Cyrus to release cattle from a nearby pen, the herd stampeding harmlessly to disrupt the intruders' formation. "Natural barriers, Louisiana's best defense," Kennedy quipped, his team chuckling amid the tension. As the first wave faltered, locals amplified the pressure, Sarah and others shining flashlights from their properties, creating the illusion of a mobilized community without direct engagement. The cartel's men, trained for combat, weren't prepared for this asymmetric warfare, legal traps snapping shut, evidence mounting and isolation growing. Zane intercepted their retreat orders. "Fall back, too many eyes on us." Kennedy's voice cut through. "Smart move, but remember, this valley's protected by more than fences." Felix, rallying remnants behind a stalled vehicle, realized too late the depth of their miscalculation. They'd targeted a strategist whose battles were won with intellect, not bullets. Police sirens wailed in the distance, real this time, summoned by Nash's coordinated calls. The team secured the perimeter as cartel forces scattered, leaving behind vehicles and gear that would become Exhibit A in upcoming proceedings. "First round to us," Kennedy said, his eyes on the screens. "But they'll come harder next. Time to layer in the community full force." The night wore on, the retreat holding firm, a testament to Kennedy's brilliant orchestration, turning potential chaos into a symphony of strategic dominance, all while upholding the principles that defined his service. Dawn's light revealed the aftermath: disabled vehicles mired in mud, cartel stragglers zip-tied by arriving deputies using evidence packets Nash had prepared. Kennedy debriefed his team in the barn maps updated with new intel. "They committed over 20 men. We turned them with 0 shots fired. That's the power of preparation." Knox nodded from his post. "Their flanks never recovered. Bayous did half the work." Cyrus grinned. "And the law does the rest." Zane pulled up fresh intercepts. El Fantasma's furious calling in reinforcements, professionals this time. Raven chimed in remotely. I've got filings ready. Any escalation, we hit them with lawsuits on property damage, trespass. Nash tallied. Community reports flooding in dozens of witnesses, all documented. Kennedy's strategy evolved, incorporating more locals' training sessions disguised as neighborhood watches, teaching basic observation and reporting. Sarah joined one such session. Folks are ready to help, Senator. Your lead inspires. His conservative ethos shone: empower individuals, strengthen communities, enforce rules fairly. As the day progressed, Cartel scouts probed again, but the net tightened. Zane's disinformation spread rumors of federal involvement, deterring casual approaches. Kennedy walked the grounds with Atlas mind racing ahead. They'll test us again soon. We adapt, outthink. The team refined defenses, Cyrus adding remote-activated barriers, Knox expanding surveillance. The first confrontation had proven Kennedy's mettle not as a fighter, but as a visionary leader whose sharp mind turned threats into opportunities for justice. By afternoon, Zane flagged heightened activity. Second wave mobilizing 30-plus heavy gear. Kennedy rallied. Stick to the plan document. Disrupt. Detain legally. The assault hit at dusk, cartel forces advancing with military precision, but Kennedy's web awaited. Cyrus triggered diversions flooding paths. Knox spotlighted leaders. Zane jammed comms with legal warnings. Locals amplified their coordinated alerts, summoning sheriffs swiftly. Felix's men found themselves ensnared not by force, but by a barrage of evidence and authority. Pull back, Felix ordered as police converged. Kennedy watched satisfied. That's how we win, smart, legal, united. The Valley held Kennedy's strategy a blueprint for resilience, his wit and wisdom, the unyielding core. The team celebrated quietly, knowing the real test loomed, but confident in their senator's guidance. Louisiana's spirit, embodied in Kennedy, proved unbreakable. The Louisiana night pulsed with tension as Senator John Neely Kennedy's retreat stood resilient, its bayou-lined perimeter now a silent testament to the strategic brilliance that had repelled the cartel's first assault. The valley, bathed in moonlight, seemed deceptively calm, but beneath the surface, Kennedy's intricate defense network hummed with activity. From his basement command center, screens glowed with feeds from hidden cameras, tracking every shadow in the Madisonville Valley. Kennedy, at 73, exuded the calm authority that had defined his decades in public service, his sharp wit cutting through the team's fatigue. Gentlemen, they thought, round one was tough. Let's show them Louisiana hospitality's got another gear, he said, a sly grin softening the steel in his voice. The cartel, led by the ruthless El Fantasma, had underestimated their target, believing Kennedy to be a mere politician out of his depth. Now stung by their initial defeat, they were regrouping, bringing in a professional force, ex-military contractors with advanced gear, determined to overrun what they assumed was a small, organized resistance. But Kennedy, ever the master strategist, had anticipated this escalation, weaving a defense that blended legal precision, community coordination, and psychological warfare into an impenetrable shield. His team, Knox on surveillance, Cyrus on infrastructure, Zane on communications, Nash on logistics, and Raven on legal strategy, stood ready, their loyalty to Kennedy forged through years of tackling complex challenges together. The Valley's residents, subtly trained as a civilian network, were now integral, their everyday actions masking a sophisticated defense system. This wasn't just about protecting Kennedy's retreat. It was about safeguarding an entire community's way of life, a mission that echoed his conservative principles of self-reliance, rule of law, and collective strength. Zane's laptop pinged with fresh intercepts, his fingers flying across the keyboard as he decoded Cartel communications. They're coming hard, 40 contractors, thermal imaging, encrypted comms, even a drone for Overwatch. ETA 30 minutes. Kennedy studied the tactical display, his mind mapping their moves like a Senate debate turned battlefield. They're expecting retired operators with a few tricks. Let's give them a community instead. The plan was audacious. Rather than escalate with force, they'd amplify the civilian network, turning farmers, ranchers, and shopkeepers into an invisible army of observers and disruptors. Sarah Bennett, now a key coordinator, relayed updates from her phone. Locals on alert. Thompson's boy spotted their advance team near the North Ridge. Photos incoming. Kennedy nodded, his years of oversight on security issues informing his response. Good. Document everything, but keep it natural, no heroes. Cyrus adjusted his non-lethal traps, remote-activated sprinklers laced with biodegradable dye cattle pens, rigged to release strategically, and floodlights timed to disrupt night vision gear. Bayous are our moat. One signal, and their paths turn to mud, he reported, wiring controls to Kennedy's panel. Knox shifted to a new observation post, his sniper-trained eyes tracking drone signatures. Got their aerial unit on scope, low-altitude, predictable pattern. Nash prepped evidence kits, ensuring every action was recorded for legal follow-through, while Raven, on a secure line, filed real-time injunctions against trespass and property damage, leveraging Louisiana law to box in the intruders legally. Kennedy's voice carried over their comms. We're not fighting a war. We're enforcing our rights. Every move they make, we've got a paper trail to bury them. As the cartel's second wave approached, their contractors moved with chilling precision, fanning out across the valley, in coordinated teams, their thermal gear scanning for hidden defenses. But Kennedy's strategy didn't rely on concealment alone, it thrived on misdirection. Zane flooded their frequencies with fake emergency broadcasts, mimicking state police chatter about armed intruders reported in Madisonville. The contractors hesitated, their comms crackling with confusion as Cyrus triggered his first trap, a controlled release of water from irrigation channels, turning the eastern approach into a quagmire. Vehicles bogged down their high-tech gear, useless against the swampy terrain. They're stuck, flanking team isolated. Knox reported his spotlight pinning a stranded SUV. Sarah's network sprang into action, locals casually moving into position, farmers checking fences, ranchers herding cattle, each action a calculated disruption. One resident, Bill Henderson, accidentally parked his tractor across a side road, blocking a retreat path, while his grandson Tommy snapped photos from a barn loft. Got clear shots of their gear, military-grade, not local. Tommy whispered into his radio, trained to observe without engaging. Kennedy watched the feeds, directing with the precision of a conductor. Cyrus hit the west sector lights only. Nash, get those images to Raven for affidavits. The cartel's lead contractor, a grizzled ex-mercenary, barked orders. Push through. It's just locals playing tricks. But Kennedy's voice cut into their open channel, calm and commanding. You're on private land, gentlemen. Leave now or face the consequences legally and otherwise. The words, delivered with his signature Southern drawl, carried the weight of a man who'd faced down political giants without flinching. The contractors pressed forward, undeterred, their drone sweeping overhead to map defenses. Knox countered, using a low-powered laser to disrupt its sensors without destroying it, a move that could be explained as a farm's security system malfunction. Drones blind, circling uselessly, he reported. Cyrus unleashed another layer, noisemakers, mimicking gunfire, not to harm, but to disorient, paired with cattle stampedes that broke their formations. They're trained for combat, not chaos. Kennedy observed his wit surfacing. Nothing says, "Welcome to Louisiana," like a herd of angry cows. The team chuckled, morale high despite the stakes. Zane escalated the psychological warfare, broadcasting looped warnings in Spanish federal agents en route surrender or face prosecution. The contractors' cohesion faltered as locals amplified the pressure, shining flashlights from porches and recording with phone cameras, creating the illusion of a fully alerted community. Nash relayed sheriff's tactical unit, dispatched ETA 15 minutes thanks to our tips. Raven's legal filings hit simultaneously, notifying authorities of imminent threats to private property, backed by time-stamped footage. The cartel's commander, realizing the trap, shouted, "Who the hell is this guy? A senator doesn't fight like this." Kennedy, patched in by Zane, replied, "A senator protects his home, sir. You picked the wrong valley." The battle shifted as the contractors regrouped, attempting a direct assault on Kennedy's retreat, believing it the nerve center. But the senator had planned for this, turning the ranch into a legal kill zone. Cyrus triggered perimeter sprinklers, marking intruders with dye for easy identification. Knox's lights pinned their advance team, exposing them to Sarah's cameras. Locals, now a synchronized network, reported movements in real time, their actions disguised as routine tasks. One farmer, seemingly checking irrigation, blocked a key path with equipment, forcing the contractors into a bottleneck, where Nash's body cams captured every detail. "We've got enough for a dozen arrests." Nash reported, packaging evidence for the sheriff. Kennedy coordinated from the center, his Senate-honed ability to juggle multiple fronts shining. "Keep it legal. Keep it tight. They want a fight. We give them a courtroom." The contractors, expecting armed resistance, found no targets, just a community closing ranks, their every move documented and reported. Frustration boiled over as their commander ordered incendiaries to burn the barn. But Cyrus had anticipated this, rigging fireproof barriers disguised as hay bales. The flames fizzled harmlessly, captured on video as attempted arson. "That's another felony for the list," Raven noted, filing charges remotely. As police sirens wailed closer, the contractors' discipline collapsed. "Abort, too many witnesses," their commander yelled. But retreat paths were blocked by routine farm activity, tractors, herds, even a local road crew conveniently repaving a junction. Kennedy's voice boomed over their channel. "You're surrounded by evidence, not guns. Surrender, or the law takes you down." Outmaneuvered, the contractors dropped weapons, hands raised, as deputies swarmed in, guided by Nash's precise intel. El Fantasma, monitoring from a safe distance, raged over comms, but Zane jammed his signal, isolating him. By dawn 37, contractors were in custody, their gear and vehicles impounded, evidence airtight, thanks to Kennedy's foresight. The team gathered in the barn, assessing the night's success. No shots fired, no blood spilled, Kennedy said, his eyes scanning the maps. "That's how we win smarts over force." Sarah arrived, awed. "The whole valley worked together, Senator. You turned us into a fortress without us even knowing." Knox nodded. Their pros never saw the real threat, the community. Cyrus grinned, "And a few well-placed mud pits." Nash added, "We've got enough evidence to dismantle their regional ops." Raven, on video, confirmed, "Courts will eat this up. Trespass, arson, conspiracy." Kennedy walked his property as the sun rose, Atlas at his side, the valley waking to a new reality. The cartel's defeat wasn't just a tactical victory. It was a lesson in what unity and principle could achieve. He addressed the team. "This valley's safe because we empowered its people, not because we fought for them. Every farmer, every rancher, they were the real defense." The lesson was clear. True strength lies in community, in using the law as a shield, in outthinking rather than outfighting. He turned to the gathered locals, now openly part of the network. You didn't need guns to win. You needed awareness, coordination, and courage to stand up legally. That's the Louisiana way. The message resonated, a call to action for any community facing threats. Organize, document, stay within the law, and no predator can prevail. Kennedy's retreat scarred, but standing became a symbol not of war but of resilience through intellect. As the valley rebuilt, training expanded, disguised as civic programs, teaching observation, reporting, and legal defense. The cartel's chatter, intercepted by Zane, spoke of El Valle de los Fantasmas, a place too costly to touch. Kennedy smiled. Let them believe in ghosts. Our real power's in plain sight, people protecting their own. The aftermath saw the valley transform not into a fortress, but a model of community defense. Sheriff Cooper, now an ally, helped formalize the neighborhood watch, giving it official cover. Federal agents, intrigued by the cartel's collapse, found only a well-organized civic program, nothing to suspect beyond Kennedy's leadership. The senator's wit surfaced in a town meeting. Folks, we just reminded some bad apples that Louisiana's got more than alligators guarding it. Laughter rippled, but the lessons stuck. Empowerment through unity and law was unstoppable. The valley's residents, trained to spot threats and respond legally, became a living deterrent, their daily routines a shield. Kennedy's legacy grew not as a fighter but as a teacher, showing that any community could stand tall with the right tools, vigilance, coordination, and unwavering principle. The sun climbed higher, casting light on a valley forever changed its people, united its senator, their guiding star. The cartel learned the hard way: underestimate a strategist like Kennedy, and you lose everything, to the power of a community's resolve.